What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Saved by the Code, where I keep you up to date with all the latest happenings in the cryptocurrency world. And we got a spicy one, a juicy one for you today. I'm going to be doing an analysis of the Tucker Carlson and Roger Ver interview on the hijacking of Bitcoin. And I'll put a link down in the description of the interview. It's about 40 minutes long, and I implore you to give it a listen. So let's just get into it. So Roger Ver I'll just give you a brief overview of who he is an early Bitcoiner, cryptocurrency advocate, an entrepreneur, made a lot of money on Bitcoin, and he's otherwise known as Bitcoin Jesus. He was a very early Bitcoiner, and I think has done a lot for Bitcoin, and I have a lot of respect for him, by the way. But he sat down with Tucker on his show to discuss some recent indictments on him for 109 years of tax evasion and all this stuff. And the summary of the interview is that Roger believes that it is not about the tax evasion charges, but it is about him exposing the truth about Bitcoin and the hijacking of Bitcoin and how it's been hijacked by intelligence agencies, and it's just a shell of what it used to be. I just want to preface this that I think a lot of what he says is probably true. Like in the early days, he says there was tons of censorship and all these things, and that Bitcoin's been infiltrated by intelligence agencies and bad actors and whatnot for the sake of control. I'm sure he's correct to some degree on that. I'm basing this off of my experience of life, and that there really is nothing that is incorruptible. Humans will always corrupt something. I just don't think it's as much as he's claiming. Nonetheless, I'm sure he's right that there is some level of corruption and bad actors in Bitcoin, for sure. I mean, you'd be naive not to think that. There's no way in hell that Bitcoin's 100% clean, and there's no one doing nefarious activities within Bitcoin, trying to subvert it and turning it into something else. All those things, I'm sure, are true to a certain degree, and he claims that this is what has happened to Bitcoin. And he goes into all this, and but like I said, he was arrested in Spain in early April of this year, April 30th, 2024, and he was charged with these tax evasion charges. And it is really fishy that he released his book 3 weeks before he was arrested, The Hijacking of Bitcoin, on April 5th, and he was arrested on April 30th. Very strange timing, I agree. That's really weird. So it makes you think, was it really about that? Is that the reason why he's being charged here, not the tax evasion stuff? But as I'll explain to you, there are also some very fishy things about Roger that raise a lot of questions for me. So let's kind of go into some history here regarding this. So he renounced his citizenship to the United States in 2014, and he apparently, the reason why he's being charged is that he didn't report a lot of his Bitcoin holdings, the profits he made on it, the capital gains. You know, the IRS, they are terrible. I think what's happening to him is horrible, by the way. I don't think he should be being charged with anything. It is horrendous, but the IRS is horrendous. And whenever you renounce your citizenship, you're supposed to report whatever, your assets and this and that. You got to give the IRS an exit tax and all this. And apparently he didn't do that. He held like a ton of Bitcoin and didn't pay like $50 million in taxes. Okay, great. And that's the reason why the Department of Justice claims they're charging him for. He thinks that it's because he's exposing the truth about Bitcoin and that it's been infiltrated by intelligence agencies to control it and monitor people's transactions, this and that. But a really big but here, more history on Roger, is that he created what's called Bitcoin Cash, and Bitcoin Cash was just a hard fork of Bitcoin. What's a hard fork? A hard fork is you use the same code base as Bitcoin, but change a few roles, and it's its own separate blockchain. And the biggest role change was to increase the block sizes of Bitcoin from 1 megabyte to 8 megabytes, and it actually currently sits at 32 megabytes, Bitcoin Cash block sizes. And this is just how much transaction data can fit into a block. And the theory was that the more data you can fit into a block, the more transactions you can process, the quicker they would process, the cheaper they would be. Okay, great, wonderful. And he says that this is abides to the original vision of Bitcoin, this peer-to-peer electronic cash system. He claims that Bitcoin Cash does that much better than Bitcoin does. The thing is that whenever you create larger blocks, it does all those things. It makes transactions quicker. You can more higher throughput, cheaper transaction fees. However, it heavily centralizes it. And how does it do this? So, whenever you have smaller blocks, it becomes much more manageable to store the blockchain on an external hard drive or whatever, because you need to store the blockchain somewhere. And if regular people can't do that in their homes, like running full nodes and storing the blockchain and verifying transactions, downloading the whole blockchain, and makes it unfeasible, then there goes your decentralization. And Bitcoin Cash's block sizes are now 32 times bigger. So you have to be able to store 32 times more data than you would previously on Bitcoin. And this becomes an issue because right now I'm attempting to start running my own full node on Bitcoin. And it's been 4 or 5 days, and I'm about 60% of the way through downloading the entire Bitcoin blockchain. And the Bitcoin blockchain is 700 gigabytes. And it goes quicker, slower sometimes, depending on your internet speed and your bandwidth and all that. But nonetheless, I'm 4 or 5 days in, and I'm still downloading the blockchain. 700 gigabytes is really cheap and easy to store somewhere. Anybody could do it in their home. And but you multiply that by 32 times, all of a sudden it becomes kind of infeasible for a lot of people. I mean, storing 700 gigabytes times 32, that's going to cost you a couple $100s to buy that much storage. $300, $400, $500. A lot of people aren't going to want to do that, and you'd have to resort to cloud services to store the blockchain on, and it becomes heavily centralized when you do that. And so that was the whole reason why Bitcoin Cash happened in 2017, which Roger Ver created because he didn't agree with the small block sizes in Bitcoin, and he claims that the code was changed in Bitcoin, this and that. The thing here is that Roger is doing the very thing that he claims is being done to Bitcoin. It's being hijacked. He hijacked Bitcoin with Bitcoin Cash. Literally. Whenever Bitcoin Cash came out, he marketed it as the real Bitcoin, and still does. And he claims that it's the real Bitcoin, not Bitcoin. So just doing that him doing that, he's doing the very thing that he claims is happening to Bitcoin. Okay, so right there for me, he loses all credibility. All credibility just goes out the window because he's doing the very thing that he claims is being done to Bitcoin. He's hijacking Bitcoin, claiming that Bitcoin Cash is the real Bitcoin, and that everybody should, listen to me. I mean, I don't know about you, but he just loses all credibility right then and there. So many people don't know about this, and Tucker failed to get into that whatsoever. I have a lot of respect for Tucker Carlson, don't get me wrong. I think he's a great journalist, but he doesn't know anything about Bitcoin, so he didn't even know the questions to ask. I would have been all over that. I would have been like, okay, you started Bitcoin Cash, and you claimed it was the real Bitcoin. Isn't that hijacking Bitcoin? But Tucker doesn't know those questions to ask. And so that's where the interview fell short because of Tucker's lack of knowledge of Bitcoin and not knowing the right questions to ask. And he probably doesn't even know really about this block size wars that happened in 2017, 2018, and the reasons why it happened and the reasons why it doesn't work. Because storing a blockchain that big makes it unfeasible for the regular person to store the blockchain, download it, and run a full node. Okay? And I'm basing this off of firsthand experience. That's where I garner a lot of my opinions is firsthand experience. I don't like to formulate my opinions on media and all that stuff because there's just so much misinformation out there. From my experience, Bitcoin works. And it does work. You can send, and Roger claims that Bitcoin's slow, it's expensive, all these things. Right now, you can send any amount of Bitcoin for $1. That's the fee, quickly. Like, that's the fastest. So your fees depend on how quickly you want your transaction processed. So if it's slower, you won't pay as much. Quicker, you pay more money. You can send a Bitcoin transaction for $1 right now. Any amount of money. You could send $1 billion for $1. I understand for smaller transactions that's not favorable. So if you're trying to send $10 and you got to spend $1 on transaction fees, that's not cool. But scaling is a hot topic in Bitcoin. Scaling it up so that those transactions do become more affordable. The Lightning Network is a scaling solution, a second layer scaling solution on Bitcoin. It's more centralized, but it allows you. That's the trade-off always with crypto is you diminish decentralization, but you increase throughput, transaction fees get lower, all this stuff, but you sacrifice the central. It's like a triangle, you know? More decentralization, harder to scale, slower, higher transaction fees, all that, but security and decentralization is maximized, which is what Bitcoin aims to do. He just claims that we've gotten very far away from what Bitcoin was initially created for by Satoshi Nakamoto, being an electronic peer-to-peer cash system, which I think it is still on track there. And he just says that it's only a speculative asset just to make money on. People are blinded by how you can get rich off Bitcoin, this and that. And I'm sure that's true to a degree, 100%. He says it's changed so much though that it's like a shell of what it used to be. And him claiming that Bitcoin Cash is like the right one, it's just you lose all credibility right there, dude. And how you marketed it as the real Bitcoin back in 2017 and literally tried to hijack it. It's so wild that he has the audacity to do all this and say all these things. Like I mentioned, I think it's BS that he's even being charged for this, 109 years, all that. And the timing of the book release and then him being arrested 3 weeks later, very strange, very fishy. I agree. However, he has tried to do that very thing to Bitcoin, hijack Bitcoin. And why should we listen to him? Why is his way of Bitcoin the real way? I just don't know. He loses all credibility for me right there. And he says the solution to this is Bitcoin Cash, privacy coins like Monero, which I think are great. Monero is it's a privacy cryptocurrency where it's literally like a black hole. You send money in there, and no one knows where it came from. No one knows where it went. It's a very privacy centric cryptocurrency. And he claims that this is like the solution. Like this is what Bitcoin should be. All this stuff. There's not enough privacy on Bitcoin. And he also in the interview says that a lot of people store their Bitcoin on custodial wallets, meaning that you're not storing your own Bitcoin on your own device. You have a lot of privacy when you do cold storage with your Bitcoin. And so many people don't do this, and that's true. If you're storing your Bitcoin on an exchange or something, it's not your Bitcoin, and your transactions aren't private. They can stop your transactions from going through. They can monitor everything. Whenever you store your own, it's so important. The proper storage of your cryptocurrency on an external device that you control the keys to, so important. And you will increase your privacy 10 times whenever you do that. Because there's no one monitoring your wallet whenever you have it on a device, okay? Like, no one's seeing where you're spending it, unless they really wanted to conduct an investigation on you. Okay, then you can track transactions and see where it's moving and this and that. And with Monero, the privacy coin, they can't track where anything's going, they can't see anything, but nonetheless, they can still come after you. The privacy coins don't solve whatever issue he's saying is wrong with Bitcoin, and it's been infiltrated by these agencies. And for him to think that these other coins that wouldn't happen to if they reached the level that Bitcoin's released is just kind of naive, if you ask me. I think this is just human nature, that it would happen no matter what. Some level of corruption would happen no matter what. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't know of one thing on the planet that hasn't been corrupt to some degree. And Bitcoin is included in that, and I'm 100% sure. I didn't do any research on it because just finding information on that, like, what are you going to do? It's just basing this off of my life experience, I'm 100% sure that Bitcoin is not 100% clean of bad actors and nefarious activity. Yeah, so if you ask me, there's some validity, I think, to what he's saying in this interview, but he just loses all credibility to me whenever he's doing the exact thing to Bitcoin that he claims is happening to Bitcoin, it being hijacked, whenever he did that exact thing with Bitcoin Cash. None of this is talked about in the interview because Tucker doesn't know to ask those questions, but it's just, dude, he loses all credibility to me. And I think he's just really mad that Bitcoin Cash didn't succeed. It's pretty much, no one uses Bitcoin Cash. It's failed. And I'm sure he has some dirt with some people in Bitcoin. I think that's what this is all stemming from, and the release of this book and whatnot. Like I said, I'm sure there's some truth to it. I'm sure, but I don't think it's as truthful as he wants you to believe. The fishy thing to me is the timing of the book release and his arrest. That is very sketch. Very sketch. So come to your own conclusions about this. I'm going to put some links down in the description for you, but just take it with a grain of salt. When you listen to the interview, a lot of people don't know of the history of Roger and him creating Bitcoin Cash and doing the exact thing that he claims is being done to Bitcoin. And it wasn't asked in the interview because Tucker doesn't know. Respect to both of them. Like I said, I respect Roger and I respect Tucker, but Roger loses all credibility because of the Bitcoin Cash thing. And I'm sorry, I just don't buy everything that he's saying here about how I think he just is mad. I think that he has there's some drama went on early in the day. Some days he created Bitcoin Cash, it didn't succeed, and now he's really mad. But like I said, I'm sure there's some truth to what he says. And, it's horrible what's happening to him. 109 years, that's just terrible. Horrendous. And the IRS, say so many things, it's just disgusting. But nonetheless, I implore you to listen to the interview. Come to your own conclusions about it. I felt like it was really important to release this video and kind of explain some of these things that a lot of people don't know about because it wasn't brought up whatsoever in the interview. And I feel like a lot of people will be spooked, this and that. From it, but there's things that you don't know, that's going on here. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to talk about regarding this. Like I said, there's gonna be some links down in the description. Yeah, so give me a like, give me a subscribe, leave a comment, all that good stuff, and until next time, I bid you farewell on your cryptocurrency journey.